The best rabbit holes in hockey, the best place for you to get lost in a series of highlights or statistics are always related to 66. And I've got a doozy for you to start off today. In his unparalleled career, Mario Lemieux, the greatest hockey player who ever lived, was on the ice for 943 power play goals. 943 times he was on the power play and raised his arms. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found it. I really should just end the show right there with everyone just trying to compute what that is. If he had 943 points in his career, he's a Hall of Famer or whatever. But 943 times he was out there on the power play and celebrated. Didn't mean he had a goal or an assist, but he was out there for it. Ran into this stat completely by accident last night. I was looking over a Penguins page on Hockey Reference for some different information, and that was on there, and I just went, wow. So you might be thinking the same thing I was when I found this, which is, who's after that? How does that compare? And this is pretty cool too. Are you ready? These are players 2, 3, and 4 in Pittsburgh history in this same category. How many times they were on the ice for a power play goal. Mario, again, was at 943. Second is exactly who you'd expect, Sidney Crosby, at 786, a staggering figure unto itself. 3 is Evgeny Malkin, not that far behind at 715. And 4, you might find this a little interesting, is Chris Letang at 494. I don't know that he's ever really been all the way appreciated locally for what he's been able to do on the power play, but there it is. So, other non-coincidence is that all 3 of those guys have been part of the power play, have been the drivers of the power play for close to 2 decades, including this past season when the power play, at least from my perspective, hit an all-time low. And yes, I know they managed to avoid the statistical all-time low, but they spent close to 3/4 of the season right at the same level as the inaugural Pittsburgh Penguins in 1967-68 that was made up of a bunch of old guys and other expansion pickups. This team, of course, in stark contrast, was expected to have a mind-blowing power play once Erik Karlsson was added to it. So you'd have these 3 fixtures, plus Karlsson, plus Jake Gensel, plus Brian Rust, plus Rickard Rakell, who had 10 power play goals at the end of the previous season in a span of about 8 weeks. This was going to be the embarrassment of riches, and it instead turned into just the embarrassment. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today, or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. So, take everything that I just said, couple it with Mario's, I'm going to use this word again, unparalleled presence on the power play, the way he would draw attention, the way he would move the penalty-killing box where he wanted it to move before making the play that he wanted to make. And then look at how Sid and Gino, albeit in a lot more games, also have been out there for a whole ton of power play goals. Throw in Letang, remember that he's a defenseman. Throw in Karlsson, throw in Rust, throw in Rakell. ask yourself, before I go on, I should mention Michael Bunting, because he became a pretty important part of that first unit, because he was the only one that could properly execute the bumper play, which is, bouncing back and forth in the middle slot, making sure that you're separating the other team's box. But if you put all this together, ask yourself, which of these players, especially the historic three that I cited, do you take off, if any of them? Or do you marry yourself to the concept of them being out there just because of what they've done? I am not, of course, talking about Sid. Sid continues to be prolific on the power play. In fact, Sid became their top goal-scoring threat on the power play, which really shouldn't have happened. So what I'm really talking about here is Gino and Tanger. What do you do with them? Do you keep them out there because they've been out there all this time? How do you align your first unit? We can all talk about splitting first and second unit and going with a 1A and a 1B. The truth is, it very, very, very rarely aligns that way where a coach can create that. They sure tried it late in the season, and every once in a while you'd see the second unit impress. You'd even see the second unit be out there for the full minute. But it's not something that's worked anywhere for any sustained period of time. So you're talking about the first unit. From there, factor in that you're talking about a head coach in Mike Sullivan that really values these guys, that values what they've done. He believes in them to the extent, some might say extreme, that he basically lets them coach themselves. What happens? Who's out there? Well, they're not going to ask me, nor should they, by the way. But here's what I've got. I want a different approach on the power play. I want a different mindset. I don't want to see the perimeter passing. I think we can all agree on that one. I don't want to see plays that are set up for passes that frequently go through the box. I don't want to see them even set up for passes that knife across the slot down low. Think about the ways that the Flyers and the Kings and the Golden Knights have done it. Rangers actually do a whole lot of that too, although they're a lot more diverse. What I want to see begins with Sid down low, but with Sid down low having a natural turn toward the net instead of back to the point or further down low. Turning toward the net, either by skating there or by getting the puck there to people who are already there. I want, of course, Carlson at the right point, because I want somebody who can get the puck through, find blades, find bodies. I would argue that he might be the best in hockey history at that one very specific skill. I want Letang on the left point. Forgive me for whatever this will mean to people who love Gino and all else, but I didn't see what I needed to see from him over the course of a full season, and I definitely don't want him on the right side missing the net and having the puck wrap all the way around. So I've got Letang on the left point. I've got two forwards that I need to put out there, and I will leave that up to camp. If I'm Sullivan, or I'm David Quinn, who's now going to be running the power play, and he's obviously going to have some influence in the process, having been an NHL head coach himself, I am basically putting it out there to the remainder of the roster, to the remainder of the skilled players. You figure out who's going to be the two other forwards. But here's a hint as to who's going to make it and who won't. If you go to the net, and you go to the net like you love it, and you make things happen down there, you're going to be on the first power play. If you don't do that, you're not going to be on it. And that includes U71. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from John, who says, DK, do you think Mike Sullivan and the management team have Drew O'Connor penciled in as LW1? Or do you see someone else surprising someone in the mold of a Chris Kunitz who would be staying with Sidney Crosby. I could see Blake Lizotte possibly being a candidate if things were got right. Lizotte, who, by the way, is still owed that full episode that I keep talking about ever since his acquisition, is one of those Brian Rust types that Sullivan will refer to as a Swiss Army knife. He can actually work his way all the way up and all the way down your lineup and look comfortable and feel comfortable in either capacity. That said, and I left out DOC in the previous discussion here, and I didn't in my head. You're going to have to trust me on that. These shows aren't scripted. But when I was talking about who these other two forwards could be, I'd like for Michael Bunting to end up being one of them because it would mean he deserved it, and he also can be effective with the bumper. But it also could be Brian Rust, and yeah, it could be DOC. Imagine DOC if he became a power play type performer. There's more to a power play than just going and parking yourself in front of the net. Patrick Hornqvist was a hockey god in front of the net, but he did other things well in terms of retrieval and passing the puck and everything else. There's more to it, but that'd be neat. Now, as for DOC, entering the season, I envision the same line that finished up this past season starting up this coming season, and that, of course, would be DOC next to Sid and Rust, barring injury. In fact, I don't really even know what you would do if you didn't start out that way. Now, have I heard that management intends to do that? No. Have I heard from management that they saw something more in DOC's play over the final month or two of this past season? Yes. Yes. Sullivan specifically believes that there was something of a breakthrough. Not just with the goals, not just with some of the passes, and he was really effective, by the way, in terms of, I was going to say breakouts, but not breakouts, but completing the breakouts, meaning the way he was able to execute passes in the neutral zone, whether it was to Rust or to Sid or even a rushing defenseman, that impressed me a lot. I didn't know that was there. But the breakthrough that Sullivan saw, in addition to obviously him popping some goals and so forth, was that he just found another gear. He just found some other level that the coaches, and I know Sullivan did, felt was not always all the way there. They see him as being a must when it comes to rambunctiousness. There's the best $30 word you're going to get this morning. Rambunctiousness. You have to spell it now. But you can picture what I'm talking about. The human forecheck, he gets the puck in deep. He just swallows people around him. And he gets the puck, and then he makes a play with it. He doesn't just bang them and have the puck sit there for somebody else to collect. He'll get the puck and then make the next pass with his chin up. That was something that Sullivan, he must have pounded that in for more than 2 years. And there it was. So now I'm saying this and try to picture the scenario in which you would go, nah, let's try something else. No way. No way. I appreciate the question, though. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. Hockey talk's fun, even in July, huh? Let's do it again tomorrow.